All right. So it's almost with it's just too frequent, man. It is too frequent. And I know I'm starting in the middle of a thought. I had a whole conversation with myself while I was quiet there. I know we have a nation of over 300 million people, right? I know in a population that large, there are going to be violent deaths. I know there are going to be police shootings. I know that the reason it seems so intense and so frequent now is because we're seeing it. I think this frequency has always occurred, but the frequency with which we're able to see it and experience it makes these types of shootings that much more draining. And I know that's kind of a selfish perspective to think about this, because we are talking about a man's life. He is dead. We're talking about a family that's broken and shattered, but there's just the fatigue, man. Like when you cover this on a regular basis, I talk about this and I have to mention it because I hate having to cover these stories because they happen so frequently. But Sylville Smith, fatally shot by Milwaukee police in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, ultimately leading to riots in the city. 23-year-old black man, allegedly armed with a stolen gun, shot Saturday afternoon by police. This was during a foot pursuit. Officers said that the man was shot in the chest and in the arm. He fled from a car during a traffic stop on Saturday, and after being chased by two police officers, he was shot and killed. Police officers had dash cams and body cams rather, and the body cam footage, according to the mayor and to the different officials, they say that the body cam shows that he had a gun in his hand, yet the body cam footage has not yet been released. So, he apparently had 500 rounds of ammunition on him. Listen, here's the deal with all of this is never about the innocence of a person. And I'm always slow to draw conclusions about the validity of a shoot, whether it was a clean shoot or not. However, when you add up the pieces of the puzzle and you add up the frequency with which this happens, there is a problem. And sometimes this means that people protest on behalf of people who were guilty, because there is an underlying problem that exists with police shootings, plural. So I don't have anything to say about Sylville Smith other than I don't have the facts. I don't know. I don't know what the video is going to show. I don't know what the body cam is going to show. I don't know. I do know that he did not have a quote unquote lengthy rap sheet like the police insinuated in the press conference. He had a minor infractions, very minor, like a traffic ticket violation, that he actually, something minor that he spent, a misdemeanor that he spent a day in jail for. Right. And according to his brother, I have not seen this confirmed, so I'm going to say this is according to his brother. Sylville had a permit to carry a weapon. The police officers saying that particular weapon was stolen. None of that has been Sylville. I'm keep saying Sylville, but it's Sylville Smith. But the evidence is still being pieced together. And again, I'm not speaking on behalf of him being an innocent person shot by the police. I'm just going to say that police officers in America in general are just too willing to take a life. This does not mean that every shooting is unjustified. This does not mean that every cop is bad. I don't care about that. What I'm saying is that there are underlying problems that exist in America that exacerbate the conversation because it is too frequent. It happens too often. People are getting killed that don't deserve that. In any other scenario, they wouldn't be killed, right? We're seeing situation. We see a fear of particularly black men. You saw that with, and there's so many names. Like I can't even think of I can't even think of the guy who was just now killed in the car next to his girlfriend. God, so many names. And that's the problem. Like trying to keep up with the names of all the people who have been killed by police officers over the last year, last 12 months, not the last 12 years, but the last 12 months is Philando Castile. It came back to me. Yeah, Philando Castile. Thanks. I knew if I talked long enough, I'd remember. But that's the problem. It's just too frequent. And here's the other problem, right? We act as though when people protest, one, we dismiss their protest because we villainize anybody who was killed by the police. And, you know, be honest with you, white folks listening, you guys don't protest when white people are killed by the police. So don't look at us when we protest when black people are killed by the police, right? Like, I don't know too many people who would not stand in solidarity with white Americans to protest white people getting killed by the police. I don't know. I mean, because we understand it's a connection, right? We understand that there's a race problem and there's systemic racism that's at play in our case. But we do understand that the overall conversation is a hyper militarization of our police and the trigger happiness of our police. And it's exacerbated in the black community because of race problems. So, you know, the fact that we're not protesting when all these white people are being killed by police, that's not our fault. That is, where is White Lives Matter that's going to protest police shootings? You know, if you go and protest, you start it. You start the protest for White Lives Matter and let White Lives Matter specifically address white people who are being killed by the police. And I guarantee you, you'll find some Black Lives Matter who will stand in solidarity with you, because in America in general, we just kill people. Our police officers are more likely to shoot you than maim you, than to just, you know, blow your kneecaps out, right? Or to find another solution to subdue you. So the frequency with which police officers kill in America is astonishing compared to other developed nations. That's number one. Number two, it's exacerbated in the black community by the fact that it has racial overtones and not just overtones, but it is triggered by a fear of blackness. But to come full circle to the point I was trying to make before I went off on this tangent is the fact that you cannot expect people who have been the target of police departments to never react and react violently. As bad as some people may think that statement is, when you look at the DOJ reports from Ferguson and you look at the DOJ reports, the Department of Justice reports from Baltimore, I guarantee you, if they do an investigation of Milwaukee, they will find the same type of behavior where the police department overwhelmingly, disproportionately targeted people of color. And I don't care. I could care less if you're a black mayor. I don't care if you are a Democratic mayor. I don't care if you were. I don't care who's in charge. We have found, I mean, provable evidence of exactly what black people have been complaining about for a long time. And you cannot, again, I repeat, you cannot have generations of people born into this type of treatment by the police and never expect something to happen. That's one argument. Here's the other argument. People are shedding more tears about property being burned down than they have bothered to shed about one person who has been killed by the police. And not just black people, like people aren't even like, they're not even moved by white people who are killed by police. They only mention that when it's an opportunity to use that person as a prop against black people who are killed by police. Right. That's the only time you see these white lives matter, black lives, blue lives matter, and all lives matter people come into the conversation, is when they can use those bodies to be props against black people. But you see that they have no sympathy, empathy, or compassion whatsoever about these black lives or even the white lives. But they shed damn tears over a gas station being burnt down. Forgive me if I don't give two shits about a gas station burning down. Yes, I would care if it was my own gas station. Yes, but I don't care. Because you know why? If they're a good business person, they've got insurance. And if they're a good business person, they'll be back in business. They'll rebuild. They'll be fine. That's what insurance is for, right? That's what happens. We're not going to condone. We're not going to say, go out and burn some shit down. We're not going to endorse it. But at the same time, I'm not going to spend time crying over it. And people all this weekend have been lamenting over the fact that angry people have lashed out and burned down a couple of buildings and burned up a police car. And the focal point of the entire conversation has been on the loss of property with zero attention to the loss of life. And the consistent and persistent every week, I don't want to talk about these things, but I have to, because every week, I'm going to try not to cuss today, right? Every week, there's a new person that we need to talk about that has gotten killed by the police. So much so that I can't even remember all the names. I probably just need to have a sheet up here with all the names so that I can even remember the 6-year-old white boy in Louisiana who was killed by 2 black police officers. I don't care what the race is. The problem is that you are putting people behind badges with weapons who are irresponsible, who probably would not qualify for any other job in real life. They have big egos, cannot stand to be challenged, and they cannot stand to be challenged by people of color, so much more than just people in general. Right. And you put people with these egos and you give them guns and you give them authority. Of course, you're going to see, and you foster environments that allow this type of behavior, and that not only allow and not only condone, but profits off of this behavior. Look at Ferguson. They profited off of targeting and abusing the black community in Ferguson. Look at the data, and it is true. It is provable. It is verifiable. This is what happened in Ferguson. They had a profit center off of economically raping the black community. Look at Baltimore. They weren't even driving. I mean, they were making money off of it, but it looks like the driving force in Ferguson was money. In Baltimore, the driving force seems to be just a disdain for the black community. And so you have all of these forces that play. You have all of these driving factors, and you have these environments that are fostering this type of behavior, incentivizing this type of behavior, encouraging this type of behavior. And you wonder why somebody goes and burns something down. It's an act of frustration. It's an act of desperation. It's like, I don't know what else to do, so I'm going to do this. What we've seen historically. America likes to destroy stuff when we're angry at it. This is in the most American tradition ever. Rioting and destruction of property when you're angry is an American tradition since the Boston Tea Party. Miss me with any other analysis of it. It is as American as damn apple pie. So we're just taking your lead.